I wasn't snooping. I need you to believe that. My dad called me over on a Tuesday night because his laptop wouldn't connect to the printer. Basic tech support stuff. I'm 19, home from college for spring break, and he still treats me like his personal IT department. I didn't mind. It was one of those rare moments we actually spent time together without him checking his watch or muttering about work calls. His office smelled like leather and old coffee. The desk was organized chaos, stacks of legal documents, 3 different charging cables, a framed photo of our family from 5 years ago when we all still smiled like we meant it. Mom looked younger then. We all did. Try the drawer, he said, pointing vaguely while scrolling through his main phone. I think there's a USB cable in there. I pulled open the middle drawer. That's when I saw it. A second phone. Not his work phone, which I recognized. Not his regular iPhone. This was a cheap Android, the kind you buy with cash at a convenience store. The kind people use when they don't want to be tracked. My stomach dropped before my brain could catch up. Not that drawer, Dad said sharply. Too sharply. He was across the room in 2 steps, reaching past me to slam it shut. The one below it. But I'd already seen his face. The panic. The guilt. The calculation happening behind his eyes as he decided whether to explain or deflect. He chose deflection. USB cable's probably in the garage anyway, he said, voice too casual. Let's check there. I nodded. Played along. Fixed his printer issue in 15 minutes while my hands shook and my mind raced. He made small talk about my classes. I made small talk back. We were both lying through our teeth. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that phone. Kept seeing his face. At 2 a.m., I crept downstairs. His office door was closed but not locked. I told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself there was a reasonable explanation. Told myself I was a terrible son for even considering what I was about to do. I opened the drawer anyway. The phone was still there, tucked under a manila folder. My hands were sweating as I picked it up. The screen lit up. No password. No lock code. Almost like part of him wanted to get caught. The first thing I saw was a text thread with a contact saved as J. Can't wait to see you Friday. Did you book the hotel? Dad's response, room 412. I'll be there by 8. I scrolled up. Months of messages. Dozens of them. Missing you already. She doesn't suspect anything. 2 more months and we're free. My chest felt tight. I kept scrolling, even though every instinct screamed at me to stop. To put the phone down. To see what I was seeing. But I couldn't stop. There were photos. Not explicit, thank God, but intimate. A woman I didn't recognize, maybe 40, pretty in a generic way, smiling at the camera in restaurants I knew my dad had claimed were work dinners, screenshots of apartment listings in Portugal, bank statements showing wire transfers to an account I'd never heard of, scanned copies of his passport, birth certificate, social security card. And then I found the document that made me want to throw up. A Word file titled Exit Plan. I opened it. It was a checklist. Clinical. Methodical. Terrifying in its precision. Transferred $180,000 to offshore account. DONE secure apartment lease in Lisbon. DONE book one-way flight for June 15th. DONE close joint credit cards week of departure. Transfer car title to own name only. Cancel life insurance policies. Move remaining retirement funds to new account. In progress. There was more. So much more. Notes about timing his departure for when Mom would be visiting her sister. Plans to turn off his phone and email. A draft email to his boss about a family emergency that would buy him a week before anyone started asking questions. And at the bottom, one line that made my blood run cold. Tell the kids after I'm settled. They'll understand eventually. I sat on his office floor with that phone in my shaking hands, and I realized I didn't know my father at all. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was premeditated abandonment. He'd been planning this for at least 6 months, maybe longer. While Mom packed his lunches and did his laundry and asked him about his day, he was systematically dismantling our family from the inside out. I thought about my little sister, Emma. She's 15. She worships him. She's been talking about him walking her down the aisle someday, about him meeting her future kids. She has no idea. I thought about my brother, Marcus. He's 12. He's been struggling in school, getting into fights, and Dad promised he'd take him fishing this summer. Promised they'd work on his fastball. Promised he'd be there. I thought about Mom. 23 years of marriage. She put him through law school while working 2 jobs. She gave up her own career to raise us. She chose him every single day, and he'd been choosing an exit strategy. The worst part? I found a separate document called Justifications. I read it even though I knew I shouldn't. She let herself go after the kids. We haven't been intimate in over a year. I deserve happiness too. The kids are old enough to handle this. She'll be fine. She always lands on her feet. That's when I knew. This wasn't just betrayal. This was cowardice. This was a man who'd convinced himself he was the victim of his own choices, who'd rewritten history to make himself the hero of a story where he abandoned his family for a woman named Jay and a fresh start in Portugal. I took photos of everything. Screenshots. Documents. Every single piece of evidence. My hands were shaking so badly I had to take some shots twice. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. Didn't know if I should tell Mom immediately or wait or confront him first. I just knew I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. Closed the drawer. Left his office like a ghost. The sun was coming up when I finally went back to my room. I sat on my bed and watched the light change and tried to figure out how you tell your mother that the man she's loved for more than 2 decades has been counting down the days until he can disappear. I texted my girlfriend. Didn't tell her what happened. Just said I missed her. She sent back a heart emoji. I stared at it for 20 minutes. Tried to remember what it felt like to trust someone completely. Downstairs, I heard Dad's alarm go off. Heard him shower. Heard him kiss Mom goodbye like he did every morning. Heard her tell him to have a good day. Heard the garage door open and close. Normal. Everything looked so devastatingly normal. Emma came down for breakfast. Marcus grabbed a Pop-Tart and ran to catch the bus. Mom hummed while she loaded the dishwasher. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee and my secret and wondered how many other mornings had looked exactly like this while Dad planned his escape. "You okay, honey?" Mom asked. "You look pale." I wanted to tell her. Wanted to show her everything. Wanted to burn it all down right there. Instead I said, "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." She smiled, squeezed my shoulder, went back to wiping down counters. I spent that entire day watching my family pretend we were fine. Watching Dad text Jay while sitting 3 feet away from Mom during dinner. Watching Emma show him her report card and beam when he said he was proud. Watching Marcus ask him to practice basketball in the driveway. Watching Dad check his watch and promise maybe this weekend. There wouldn't be a weekend. June 15th was 8 weeks away. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat in my car in the driveway and made a decision. I wasn't going to tell Mom yet. Not until I had a plan. Not until I could figure out how to protect her and Dama and Marcus from the financial devastation I'd seen in those bank statements. Not until I understood exactly how much damage he'd already done. I was going to watch him. Document everything. Build a case. And when the time came, I was going to make sure he couldn't just disappear into the Portuguese sunset while we picked up the pieces. I didn't know it then, but that decision, that moment of choosing strategy over honesty, was going to change everything. Because the thing about secrets is they never stay buried. And the thing about betrayal is it doesn't just destroy the person being betrayed. It destroys everyone who touches it, everyone who knows about it, everyone who has to decide whether to speak up or stay silent. I became my father's accomplice the moment I chose not to tell. And I'll never forgive myself for what happened next. I became a spy in my own house. For 2 weeks, I documented everything. Every time Dad claimed he was working late, I checked his location on the family tracking app we'd set up years ago for emergencies. He'd forgotten about it. Or maybe he thought we all had. The app showed him at hotels, restaurants across town, an apartment complex in the suburbs that matched the address on one of his lease documents. I started taking pictures of credit card statements when they came in the mail, started screenshotting his calendar when he left his laptop open, started listening at doors and remembering names and making notes in a password-protected file on my phone. I felt sick doing it. Felt like I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. But I kept telling myself it was necessary. That I was protecting Mom. That when I finally told her, I'd have everything she needed to divorce him and take him for everything he had left, before he could finish transferring it all the way. The lie I told myself was that I was being strategic. The truth was I was terrified. Terrified of the moment I'd have to say the words out loud. Terrified of watching Mom's world end. Terrified that somehow this was my fault for not being enough to make him want to stay. On a Thursday night, 3 weeks after finding the phone, everything accelerated. I was in my room when I heard raised voices downstairs. Not quite yelling, but close. I crept to the top of the stairs. "You've been distant," Mom was saying. Her voice was tight, controlled, the way it gets when she's trying not to cry. "For months now." I'm not imagining it, David. Something's wrong. You're being paranoid, Dad said. Work's been stressful. You know that. Don't gaslight me. I know the difference between stress and whatever this is. Silence. Heavy and awful. Are you having an affair? Mom asked. My heart stopped. Jesus, Sarah. No. How could you even ask me that? The lie came so easily. So smoothly. Like you'd practiced it. Then what is it? Mom's voice cracked. Because I feel like I'm losing you and I don't know why. You're not losing me. I'm right here. I'm just tired. We're both tired. Maybe we need a vacation. Just the two of us. I heard footsteps. Dad moving closer to her. Probably touching her shoulder or her face, doing that thing he does where he makes you feel crazy for doubting him. Okay, Mom said quietly. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. It's okay, baby. We're okay. I went back to my room and punched my pillow until my knuckles hurt. He'd looked her in the eye and lied. Again. So easily. And she'd apologized to him. That's when I realized waiting wasn't protecting her. It was just giving him more time to gaslight her, to manipulate her, to make her think she was the problem. I decided to tell her the next morning. But I didn't get the chance. Because that Friday after school, Emma came into my room crying. I think Dad's cheating on Mom, she sobbed. Everything in me went cold. Why do you think that? I asked, even though I knew. Even though I'd known for weeks. I saw texts on his phone. He left it on the counter and it lit up. There was a message from someone named Jay. It said, "Can't wait for tonight. I need you." She looked at me with these devastated eyes, like she needed me to tell her she was wrong. That there was an explanation. I couldn't give her that. Did you tell Mom? I asked. She shook her head. I was too scared. What if I'm wrong? What if I ruin everything over nothing? This was my moment. I should have told her she wasn't wrong. Should have shown her everything I'd found. Should have gone to Mom together. Instead I said, let me handle it. Don't say anything yet. I'll figure it out. Another lie. Another delay. Emma nodded, trusting me completely. Okay. You'll fix it, right? Yeah, I lied. I'll fix it. She left my room and I sat there hating myself. 2 hours later, Dad came home with flowers for Mom. Kissed her like nothing was wrong. Made jokes during dinner. Helped Marcus with his homework. Was the perfect husband and father. I watched him perform, and I understood that this was who he'd always been. That every good memory I had of him was just another performance. That I'd never actually known him at all. After dinner, I waited until he was alone in his office. Knocked on the door. Hey buddy, come in, he said, smiling. Like we were friends. I closed the door behind me. I need to talk to you about something, I said. He must have heard something in my voice because his smile faded. What's wrong? I found your phone. The one in your drawer. The color drained from his face. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, he just stared at me. Then he stood up, ran his hand through his hair, and I watched him decide which version of himself to be. He chose anger. You went through my private things? What the hell gives you the right to? You're planning to leave, I said flatly. June 15th. I saw everything. The bank transfers. The tickets. The woman. All of it. He deflated. Sat back down. Put his head in his hands. For a moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. How long have you known? He asked quietly. 3 weeks. His head snapped up. 3 weeks? And you didn't say anything? I was trying to figure out how to protect Mom. Protect her from what? From me finally being happy? The audacity of that sentence made me want to scream. You're abandoning your family, I said. You're stealing money that belongs to all of us. You're going to leave Mom with nothing and traumatize your kids and you're calling it happiness? You don't understand. You're 19. You don't know what it's like to wake up one day and realize you've been living someone else's life. That you've been pretending for so long you've forgotten who you really are. So get a divorce like a normal person. Go to therapy. Have a midlife crisis and buy a stupid car. Don't run away to Portugal with some woman named Jay while Mom thinks you're at work. He flinched at her name. Does she know you're married? I asked. Does Jay know about us? He didn't answer. Oh my God, I said. She doesn't know, does she? You're lying to her too. It's complicated. It's really not. You're a coward. He stood up again, and for a second I thought he might hit me. Instead he just pointed at the door. Get out. This is between me and your mother. It has nothing to do with you. I'm your son. She's my mother. Emma and Marcus are my siblings. Everything about this has to do with me. I said get out. I didn't move. I'm telling her. Tonight. I'm showing her everything. Now he did look panicked. Wait. Just. Wait. Let me tell her. Let me do it the right way. She deserves to hear it from me. You don't get to control how this happens anymore. Please. His voice broke. Please, just give me until tomorrow. Let me figure out what to say. I don't want to hurt her more than I have to. And here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe that somewhere in this man who'd raised me, there was still enough decency to do the right thing. Tomorrow morning, I said. If you haven't told her by noon, I will. With everything I've found. He nodded. Looked almost relieved. Thank you. I know you don't understand now, but someday you will. Someday you'll know what it's like to feel trapped. I left without responding. That night I couldn't eat. Couldn't focus. Kept checking on Mom, who was watching TV and folding laundry like it was any other Friday. Emma was in her room. Marcus was playing video games. Everyone was living in the last normal evening we'd ever have. At midnight, I was still awake when I heard Dad's office door close. Heard him on the phone, voice low. I pressed my ear to my bedroom door. I couldn't make out words, but I heard the tone. Urgent. Planning something. I should have stopped him then. Should have gone downstairs and forced the conversation. Should have woken Mom up and shown her everything. But I was tired. And scared. And I still foolishly believed he'd do what he promised. I fell asleep around 2 a.m. When I woke up at 8 the next morning, Dad's car was gone. I went downstairs. Mom was making pancakes, unbothered. Where's Dad? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. He left early. Said he had to run to the office for a few hours. Some emergency with a client. My stomach dropped. What time did he leave? I don't know. 5? 6? I was half asleep. I ran to his office. The drawer was open. The phone was gone. His laptop was gone. The manila folders with all his documents were gone. I checked the family tracking app. His phone location was off. He'd run. Not to Portugal. Not yet, he couldn't. His flight wasn't for another 6 weeks. But somewhere. To buy time. To hide evidence. To get ahead of the story. I stood in his empty office and realized I'd made a catastrophic mistake. I'd given him 12 hours. He'd used them to disappear. Mom found me there, standing frozen. Honey, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I turned to her. Saw her concerned face. Her kind eyes. Her complete and total trust that her family was intact. And I had to destroy it all. Mom, I said. We need to talk. It's about Dad. The pancakes burned while I told her everything. I showed her the screenshots I'd taken. The bank statements. The text messages. The exit plan. All of it. She sat at the kitchen table and didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just went very, very still. How long have you known? She asked finally. 3 weeks. She looked at me then, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Betrayal. But not from him. From me. 3 weeks, she repeated. You knew for 3 weeks and you didn't tell me. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to get evidence so you could divorce him and he couldn't take everything. You were trying to control the situation. Just like him. The words hit like a slap. That's not fair, I said.
I was trying to help. By lying to me? By letting me cook his meals and wash his clothes and share his bed while you both kept secrets? That's not. I'm your mother. I deserve to know. Immediately. Not when you decided I was ready. Not when you had enough evidence. The moment you found out. She was right. I knew she was right. I'm sorry, I whispered. She stood up. Walked to the sink. Gripped the counter like it was the only thing holding her up. Where is he now?
I don't know. He's gone. He turned off his location. I think he ran when I confronted him last night. You confronted him? Without me? Every decision I'd made was wrong. Every single one. I thought he'd tell you. He promised he would. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She finally cried then. Big, wrenching sobs that made her whole body shake. I tried to hug her but she pushed me away. Not right now, she said. I can't right now. Emma appeared in the doorway. Mom, what's happening? And I had to watch my mother pull herself together, wipe her face, and figure out how to tell her 15-year-old daughter that her father was a liar and a coward and was planning to abandon us. Marcus came down next. Started asking questions. Mom sat them both down and explained it as gently as she could. But there's no gentle way to say your dad doesn't love us enough to stay. Emma cried. Marcus got angry, punched the wall, left a hole in the drywall that's still there. Mom held them both while they fell apart. I stood there useless, watching the bomb I'd tried to defuse detonate anyway. Dad didn't come home that night. Or the next night. On Monday, Mom got a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. I'll be in touch. That he'd started liquidating whatever assets he could access. Mom filed for divorce Tuesday morning. Called the bank, called a lawyer, called everyone she needed to call to try to salvage what was left. It wasn't enough. He'd been too thorough, too careful. By the time we started fighting back, he'd already moved most of the money somewhere we couldn't touch. The house had a second mortgage I didn't know about. Mom's name was on the debt but not on the accounts where he'd hidden the cash. We had to sell the house. Had to move into a cramped apartment in a worse school district. Mom had to go back to work, take a job that barely covered rent. Emma got quiet and angry. Marcus started failing classes. And it was all my fault. Not the affair. Not the planning. Not the theft. But the waiting. The 3 weeks I played detective instead of telling the truth. If I told Mom immediately, she could have frozen accounts. Could have filed first. Could have protected us before he had time to move everything. Instead I tried to be the hero, and I made everything worse. The worst part? Dad did eventually make it to Portugal. Got on a plane in July, just a few weeks late. Last I heard, he and Jay are still together. He sends child support when he remembers, which isn't often. He called Marcus on his birthday, talked for 5 minutes. Hasn't called since. Emma won't talk about him. Marcus pretends he doesn't care, but I found him crying in his room last week when he heard a song Dad used to play. Mom's trying. She's dating someone new, a guy who seems nice. But I catch her looking sad sometimes when she thinks no one's watching. And me? I dropped out of college. Couldn't justify the tuition when Mom was working double shifts. Got a job instead. Send money home every month. Try to be the man Dad should have been. But I can't stop thinking about those 3 weeks. About every moment I stayed silent. About how I thought I was protecting my family when really I was just protecting myself from having to face the truth. People ask me sometimes if I regret snooping through his things. If I wish I'd never found that phone. But that's not the regret that eats me alive. I regret every single day I stayed silent. I regret looking my mother in the eye and pretending everything was fine while I held her whole world in my pocket. I became an accomplice to my father's betrayal the moment I chose silence over truth, and I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. 6 months after Dad left, I ran into one of his old friends at the grocery store. Roger had been Dad's college roommate. They played golf together every month for 20 years. He'd been at my parents' wedding, at my baptism, at every major family event I could remember. He saw me, and his face did this complicated thing where he clearly wanted to pretend he hadn't. But we were in the cereal aisle. There was nowhere to go. Hey, buddy, he said, too cheerful. How's school going? I'm not in school anymore, I said. Had to drop out. Money's tight. His face fell. Bright. I heard about everything. I'm really sorry. Did you know? I asked. The question just came out. I hadn't planned to ask. About Jay? About what he was planning? Roger looked at his cart. At the ceiling. Anywhere but at me. I knew he was unhappy, he said finally. I didn't know specifics. But you knew something. He sighed. Look, your dad talked. About feeling trapped.
About wondering what else was out there. Guy talk, you know? I told him to see a therapist. To talk to your mom. I didn't think he'd actually leave? Yeah. So you knew he was thinking about it, and you didn't warn us. It wasn't my place. I'm his friend, not his keeper. I wanted to scream at him. Wanted to ask how many other people knew. How many of Dad's friends and colleagues had seen the signs and said nothing because it wasn't their business. Instead I just walked away.
Left my card in the middle of the aisle. Sat in my car and shook. That's when I started realizing how many people had been complicit. Not actively helping, but passively enabling. Staying silent because confronting him would have been uncomfortable. I'd done the exact same thing. The guilt got worse after that. I started having panic attacks. Random moments where I couldn't breathe, where my chest felt tight and my vision went spotty. They happened at work, in the shower, while I was trying to sleep. The first time was during a family dinner at the apartment. Mom was talking about something normal, maybe her day at work, and suddenly I was back in Dad's office, staring at that phone, making the decision to wait. I excused myself and threw up in the bathroom. Marcus knocked on the door. You okay? Yeah, just something I ate. Another lie. I was getting good at those. Emma noticed too. Started watching me with this concerned expression. One night she cornered me in the kitchen. You blame yourself, she said. Not a question. I should have told Mom sooner. He still would have left. He still would have stolen the money. You didn't make him do any of that. But I gave him time to cover his tracks. I gave him 3 extra weeks to hide assets and plan his escape. If I told Mom immediately, we might still have the house. She might not be working herself to death. You and Marcus might not be struggling. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm angry at you. I won't pretend I'm not. You should have told us right away. But I'm angrier at him. He's the one who did this. Not you. I enabled him. You're 19. You were scared. You made a bad choice. He's 45 and he made 1,000 bad choices on purpose. It's not the same. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to let myself off the hook. But I couldn't. Because here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It spreads. It's contagious. Once it enters a family, it infects everything. Every relationship. Every interaction. Every moment becomes colored by the question of who knew it and when. Marcus stopped trusting me after he found out I'd known for 3 weeks. He never said it directly, but I felt it. The way he'd hesitate before telling me things. The way he stopped asking me for advice. Mom tried to be understanding, but sometimes I'd catch her looking at me and I knew she was thinking about those 3 weeks. Wondering what else I might be hiding. Wondering if she could trust me. The worst part was Emma. Sweet, honest Emma who'd come to me crying about Dad's texts, who trusted me to fix it. She tried to hide it, but I saw the betrayal in her eyes. I'd failed her. Just like Dad had. I started pulling away from all of them. Working extra hours. Making excuses to not be home. Telling myself they were better off without me around as a reminder. My girlfriend broke up with me in August. Said I'd become distant and cold and she couldn't compete with whatever I was going through. I didn't fight for her. Didn't explain. Just let her go. I was becoming my father. Shutting people out. Running away from the mess I'd helped create. The real breaking point came in September. Marcus got in trouble at school. Big trouble. He and some friends broke into the football field equipment shed and trashed it. Thousands of dollars in damage. The school wanted to press charges. Mom got the call at work. Came home early, exhausted and defeated. Sat Marcus down for a conversation that turned into a screaming match. Why would you do this? Mom asked. Why would you throw away your future like this? Why should I care about my future? Marcus yelled. Dad didn't care about his family. Why should I be better than him? The words hung in the air like poison. Mom started crying. Marcus stormed off to his room. Emma retreated to hers. I stood in the living room of our cramped apartment and saw clearly what Dad's betrayal had done. It hadn't just broken Mom's heart. It had broken Marcus's moral compass. Had broken Emma's ability to trust. Had broken our family's foundation. And my silence had given all of that brokenness 3 extra weeks to take root. I knocked on Marcus's door. He told me to go away. I went in anyway. He was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For not telling Mom right away. For thinking I could control the situation. For making everything worse. He didn't look at me. You think an apology fixes it? No. I don't think anything fixes it. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. Dad said sorry too. In his text. Didn't mean anything. I'm not Dad. Aren't you? He finally looked at me. You both kept secrets. You both thought you knew better than everyone else. You both made choices that hurt us. The comparison gutted me. You're right, I said. I did what he did. I chose my own version of events over the truth. I'm sorry. Marcus sat up. The difference is you're still here. You're still trying. He's not. That has to count for something. Does it? I don't know. I'm 12. I don't know anything anymore. We sat in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, Are you going to leave too? What? No. Never. Promise? I promise. It was the first promise I'd made since Dad left that I knew I could keep. After that night, I made a decision. I couldn't change what I'd done. Couldn't take back those 3 weeks. But I could stop running from it. I started going to therapy. Spent money I didn't have on sessions with a counselor who specialized in family trauma. Started working through the guilt, the shame, the fear that I was becoming my father. I started being honest with my family. About my panic attacks. About my guilt. About how hard I was finding it to forgive myself. Mom held my hand during one of those conversations and said, "I forgive you." I did from the start. I was just hurt. But I forgive you. Emma said, "You're my brother. You messed up. We'll get through it." Marcus took longer, but eventually he said, "I get it. You were scared. I'm scared too." Their forgiveness didn't erase the guilt, but it made it bearable. I went back to school the following spring. Part-time, at community college, taking out loans I'll probably spend decades paying off. But I'm doing it. Building something instead of drowning in regret. Mom's boyfriend proposed last month. She said yes. He's a good man. Patient. Kind.
Nothing like Dad. At the engagement dinner, she gave a speech about second chances and choosing to trust again. I cried through the whole thing. Emma's doing better. Made new friends. Joined the debate team. She's talking about college now, about her future, with something like hope in her voice. Marcus is still struggling. Still angry. Still acting out sometimes. But he's in therapy too. He's trying. That's all any of us can do. As for Dad,
I haven't spoken to him in 8 months. He sent me a Facebook message a few weeks ago. Something about wanting to rebuild our relationship and explain his side. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear whatever justification he's constructed for himself. But not now. Not while I'm still trying to rebuild what he destroyed. My therapist asked me last week what I'd tell someone who found themselves in my situation. Someone who discovered a terrible secret and didn't know whether to speak up immediately or wait. I didn't have to think about my answer. Tell the truth. Right away. No matter how scared you are. No matter how much you think you're protecting people by waiting. The truth is always kinder than a lie, even when it destroys everything. Because here's what I learned. Betrayal compounds. Every day you stay silent is another day the person being betrayed lives in a false reality. Another day they make plans based on lies. Another day they invest in a future that doesn't exist. Those 3 weeks I waited weren't 3 weeks of protection. They were 3 weeks of deeper betrayal. 3 weeks where Mom packed Dad's lunches and kissed him goodbye while he counted down the days until he could leave. 3 weeks where Emma and Marcus built their lives on a foundation that was already crumbling. I thought I was being strategic. I thought I was being smart. I was just being a coward. And the cost of that cowardice is measured in therapy bills and panic attacks in a 12-year-old boy who doesn't know who to trust anymore. It's measured in my mother's face when she realized I'd lied to her for 3 weeks. It's measured in the house we lost and the life we had to rebuild from scratch. People think the hard part of discovering a secret is deciding whether to tell. But that's not it. The hard part is living with what happens when you wait too long to speak. I check Dad's social media sometimes. I shouldn't, but I do. He posts photos from Portugal. Sunsets. Beach trips. Jay smiling at the camera. Captions about new beginnings and living authentically. He looks happy. And maybe he is. Maybe he got exactly what he wanted. A fresh start. A life unburdened by responsibility or consequence. But I hope, somewhere deep down, that he thinks about us. About Emma's graduation he'll miss. About Marcus's first date. About Mom walking down the aisle to marry someone who actually deserves her. About me, his son, who tried so hard not to become him that I ended up following his playbook anyway. I hope he remembers what he traded for his happiness. And I hope it was worth it. Because I'll spend the rest of my life trying to rebuild what I broke by staying silent. I found my father's secret phone and waited 3 weeks to tell the truth. And in those 3 weeks, I learned that sometimes the person who knows about the betrayal becomes the betrayer too. The guilt doesn't go away. It just becomes part of you. A scar you carry. A reminder of the person you don't want to be. I see that phone in my dreams sometimes. Lit up in the drawer. Waiting for me to decide who I'm going to be. In my dreams, I make the right choice. In reality, I'll never get that moment back.